Good morning, everybody. I'm very thankful to be invited here to speak to you about a project that is very dear to me and represents as well what I think the art should try to do in today's world. But I'm not neither a doctor, neither an artist. I'm an arts organizer, so a sort of a matchmaker who sees an inspiration or a problem and a potential and tries to match it together. And a cross-sectoral collaboration is something that I find very, very interesting, as well as very challenging. But as I have 40 minutes today to speak, then I'll take the possibility to start with the very, very beginnings, because I think that every project starts with an inspiration. And for inspiration, it's very important to understand where do you come from. So I come here to speak as a part of a festival, Sansusī. Here you have a picture of the festival. It is a festival that takes place in a very remote place, 146 kilometers from Riga. It's in a house that used to be a city hall of a village that does not exist anymore. And during the years, we have started an art residency program as well. So artists come there to stay as well, not only during the festival time, but during the whole year. It started as an academic music festival in a rock festival format, because we felt that academic music is something that people have a hard time to approach, because you have to dress up to go to the opera, and then contemporary music is even more complicated. So here you come with jeans, you take a tent, you come for 3 days, we don't say you what's going to be the program, and you just follow through it in the nature and in our forest concert halls. And the residency setting happened at the same time. And at the beginning we were very proud, because we felt we make people who don't go to the opera come and listen to our experimental contemporary music. And then we started to do circus, contemporary dance, theater. We always have some visual art, especially installation art. But then we realized, damn, but we're in this town. It's very small, it's around 3,000 people. And we almost have no one from there. So I thought, we're not such a winners at all. So we thought of how to approach it. We started to organize some residency exits and invite local people. It didn't work so much, so we started to invite people to help us to clean the area. That worked really well. They were very happy to listen to the concert after they could have helped us. And then we realized, okay, we have this 3,000 town that is actually a region that is spread, but there's a village with 900 inhabitants, from which there is a smaller village in this village, which is a psychoneurological hospital with almost 400 inhabitants. So 40% of the inhabitants of that village are whether the patients or people who work in psychoneurological clinic. And of course, they haven't been to our festival, so we have neglected half of the population of the village. We started first by going to the hospital and saying, hey, we would be happy to give you some free tickets if you would like to come. And the hospital was like, yeah, we have some people who could walk around, but you should better invite them to help you. And so we did. They came, we were preparing a big experimental site-specific contemporary opera, and they helped us to clean the forest. It's a lot of work, because it's a lot of work that hospital as well took, because they always have to come with them, they have to accompany them. And we ate a soup together, and some months later they came to see the performance that a lot of culture goers went and were like, whoa, that's something very interesting. But they really enjoyed it, because they felt they have been part of it. So next year our good intentions didn't go smaller, but we somehow had less of physical work to do, and we somehow forgot to invite them to help. What we did instead is we had an artist in residency who came up with the idea that she would like to do a workshop in the hospital, if that would be possible, because she worked on, she was a visual artist, and she worked on a theme of memory. And she went there, and it was a 2-hour workshop, and the hospital was very welcoming. And we met the people, and they were like, I remember you, we were helping you last year. And they were participative in the workshop, and they talked to us about the concerts they had seen the previous year. And we said, yes, and of course you're welcome this year. And they said, no, we didn't help you. But of course you can come there. No, we didn't earn it this year. We cannot come. And we were trying to talk with the hospital staff, but no one came. And then we understood we're doing something wrong. We're not getting them involved. And then I went to St. Petersburg, thanks to Arts Promotion Center Finland, and met Matti Selin, who was presenting a concept called Wellbeing Residency. When I listened to this concept, I thought, that's exactly what we need. We need a way to involve people, and not only in the field work, getting grass together, but really involving them in a cultural process, so they could be a part of it. So what is the Wellbeing Residency? I think you're all aware of the art residency concept. It's something that I think today the contemporary art could not really walk. It is very different, of course, in visual arts and performing arts. I think most of you, as far as I know, come from the visual arts field. Me, myself, I mostly work in performing arts, so our residencies would not be 3 months or 6 months. It usually would be 2 weeks or maximum 1 month. They're much shorter, they need a lot of space, a lot of needs. But the principle is the same. The artist goes to another place and works, and it has an effect on the artist, but it has a lot of effect as well on the place where he goes. So the Wellbeing Residency concept merges the arts residency concept with the social inclusion. So what we are interested to do is to work in a residency in collaboration with social or healthcare institutions. The work began with a closed type of social or healthcare institutions. So it's retirement houses, prisons, psychoneurological clinic, orphanages, but of course it can go further, and it can be used, this kind of methodology can be used as well for youth centers or for any other type of places where the accessibility to the arts is complicated. So what is important is what we're looking for. We're not looking for artists who go and do arts therapy. It's not doing workshops while you're doing your own project. It's art projects that really are about involving people in it. When we started to look at how it's organized, you see there's three very important parts, three important partners that have to be taken account. It's the organization that runs the residency program, the institution you want to collaborate, and the artist. And these three organisms are crucial. It's very different from organizing a normal artist residency where you have an art residency program and the artist. And here the institution has as much of a big role as all the other partners. And the idea sounded great, but then I was going back to my psychoneurological clinic with almost 400 patients, and the neurological clinic I didn't mention, but it's as well, it's 4 kilometers from anything, and it's very far away because it was built during the Soviet times, when the idea of building these type of institutions was to build as far as possible from people's eyes. So they don't really, even if they're allowed to walk around, a lot of them, they don't blend with the local society. We actually need to know how, and the Finnish guys, they know how to do it in Finland, because the laws are very different in each of our countries, as well as the funding schemes are different. The access to the closed type of institutions are different. Everything is very different. And then we thought that we should get together, so me and Matti and the other organizations who I mentioned before, we all met in St. Petersburg, and we were, let's try to learn how to do it. Here's a little scheme I just put about the kind of preparation and end process that we actually figured out later, but it just shows how many steps do we have to actually understand how to do in order to make the residency happen. So from this, we decided to make the network. So Wellbeing Residency Network, the idea started in 2016, but of course it took time. It took us about half a year to put the project together, to apply for the first funding in Norden, and after they apply for the second funding in CBSS. So we thought, what is the biggest need for all of us? Of course, it's sharing the knowledge and knowing how to do it, but the real need is that there is a real lack of collaboration between the social and medical sector and the art. So we created this project. The aim of the project is to be a capacity building project. So we'll build a capacity to be able to run these residencies in the future. We have it's a 2-year project at the moment. We're hoping to make it longer afterwards. So now we just finished the first year. So we have done, at the moment, one big conference at the beginning, where we invited, that happened in Finland, and we invited everybody who had experience, both artists and the organizers, to speak about their experience, speak about their challenges and mistakes, and see how should we start. And then we did 5 think tanks. And what these think tanks is, we go to each of the residency place, and there's always a half-a-day conference where we invite specialists from healthcare sector or social sector, depending on what is the target of each residency, and artists who have similar experience. We have a conference with them, a smaller conference for professionals, for around 50 people, to get the kind of insight knowledge, and as well to get together in the hall the healthcare specialists, the social care specialists, and the artists. And so in the second part of the day, we can get their input about our ideas. And then we go to the residency space for 2 days as a think tank group, and we work on a step-by-step methodology that should be adapted in each of the residency, taking in account the type of the laws are in the country, the situation there is, the financial situation of the institution that we're going to work, because that can impact a loads of things. And so we did that now in all 5 places, and now we're in the second phase, in which we are testing the residencies. So the goal of this is to create a sustainable methodology, but with very precise tool sets for each place. But these tool sets would be able to help other people who want to make their residencies to have the kind of comparison and already step-by-step methodology. So I already talked about the meetings. So after this 1 year, we'll have a 5 residency tryouts. And then in a year, around this time next year, in Riga, we are going to organize a conference where we are going to present a publication with our methodology that's going to be tested by toolsets, by the tryouts. So here you see the project timeline, and we're somewhere around here because some of us already tried out some of the residencies. So the output, what is going to come out of this project? So first, it's going to be digital publication with the best practices and the local methodology examples. And the second thing, and that is very, very crucial for us, is new partnerships between well-being institutions and cultural organizations. And I may comment on about it a little bit. When we started, both Finnish partners, Russian partners, Latvian partners, and Swedish partners, not all of us had already a clear idea with whom we were going to work. At least we didn't have the open door for it. And then every time we went to do a think tank somewhere, and we made this meeting with all the healthcare institutions and the artists there, it helped us as well to get to know each other, and it somehow always gave a kind of extra credibility when you come with a crew of your foreign colleagues. Somehow you're taken seriously. So in several places that happened. We saw that in Latvia, and we saw that in Russia, that suddenly when we came all together with this international conference and with these people, and when we sit around the table, then suddenly there's 4 institutions coming, yes, of course, you could do it in our place. We're not afraid anymore. Of course, there's always very, it's a lot of detailed work with each of the institutions, but it really helped us to open the doors. And as for more like general outcomes, it's the methodology, that is the adaptive methodology and the role model methodology tools. It's as well increased awareness, and I'm very happy that I can be here and speak about it today, because that's something that we're trying to do as well. We're trying to speak as much about this practice, because I really feel that this practice can be adapted to any type of art for artists who are interested in working in this. And it's a kind of cross-sectoral, long-term collaboration that is really needed. And as well, we're really thinking about this network is now functioning since 2 years. In our minds, it's already since 3 years, but we are really looking forward to expand. Our long-term goal, now we have a Nordic network with 5 partners, but our long-term goal is to create a European network and keep going with ameliorating this practice, but having it as actually an ongoing, regular thing. So I wanted to give you a little sneak peek of the publication we're going to publish in next autumn. This publication, so it is, we already have the draft version, but we're not going to share it before we have tested it in methodology. Because I think it's always, it is often very interesting to hear about problems and challenges that people face rather than successes, because if people don't talk about challenges, that means they're just hiding something, and especially in these type of settings. So we want this publication to be complete, and we want to check and test proof everything we have decided to do. So, but in general, the publication will look like this. We're going to explain the concept. We're working on ethical charter, because it sounds like a general word that we see on every website. But working in this type of collaboration, it's not only about GDPR laws. It's not only about respecting the privacy or the personality of the clients of the institutions. It's as well about the respect to the artist and his freedom of artistry and the ownership of the result that is made at the end. And it's about how the communication is done and everything else. Then the next thing is the step-by-step manual, where we actually, in a very detailed way, try to put all the processes that we have to go through, and it's a lot of legal processes as well. And here I will share one little challenge that we had in the step-by-step manual. If you will be interested and you will read it next year, you will see that we really advise you to, if you want to run this type of residency, then you should first contact the general manager of the hospital, make a signed 3-party contract, and then you're safe. In Agnes, we realized if we do that, we're going to not have any residency. We went in the hospital first by the nurse, and she was just very keen on doing that. So she went to her boss and said, "Can we do it?" And she said yes. And then somehow finally everybody's informed. But if they would have to sign a contract with us, they would have to go up and up in this huge institution till the Ministry of Health, and then they would be like, "We have never heard something like that." And that would make everything very complicated for them. So in order to make this happen, we had to make the way that we should say, you should not do it. And then we'll propose case studies from each of the residencies and references and resources on the work, because there's actually quite a lot of work that already has been done on similar practices or an influence of this kind of work. And sample documents that I think can be useful, especially if the organizers are smaller smaller organizations or associations that don't have a kind of the whole department for legal advice. And then the kind of typical contracts, the type of contracts, the type of the rights for photography or video use, etc., etc. That's something we're going to provide as well. And now I would like to present you one or two case studies, depending how much time do I still have. Oh, good. So I'm going to present you two different case studies, because in Sansusī we actually applied for another funding, and we have had not only one Wellbeing Residency that has become already something regular, and we're making mistakes in adding that to our manual with every residency, of course. But I would like to present a last resident that was a project which was called We Can Be Heroes, and it was made by Marino Clown Company. When they sent us their application, my residency curator, she said, no way, I don't get the project. And it's clowns. I don't get clowns. I'm a visual artist. I don't get clowns. Māra, you're from circus. I said, I know this clown. Yeah, let's trust him. So Marino Clown Company, it is a company of a social clowning. And when it means social clowning in this way, he's not a hospital clown, or he doesn't go to do workshops to make people happier. But he likes to make a long-term clown interventions to go to, how would I say, to push changes in society. So when he arrives to a village, he really takes over the village, and his performance is, as long as he's there, everything he does is the part of the performance. And everything who's around there is the participants of the performance. But they came with this concept. And first, when he sent me images, and I thought, you're going to go naked with the mask in a mental hospital? I don't really think that's going to work out. But actually, he had done a quite deep research. He has found that in the 30s, there was a guy from Latvia who had to emigrate to South America because he was Jewish. And he was a wrestler, a really good wrestler. And he became a very good wrestler there. And he became a movie star. And he created his own superhero, Nurturn. And there's really more than 20 movies about him. And of course, in Latvia, nobody knows about him. So he came with this idea that he's gonna come to the village and ask for help to commemorate this famous Latvian movie star and superhero Nurturn. We expected at the beginning he would only work with technological clinic, but that was not the way they work. What they are doing, as I said, they're trying to create a change in a whole place where they arrive. So finally, they worked in psychological clinic, but they went as well to a retirement house, to a school, and then they somehow knocked on the door and almost everybody in the village asking for something to borrow or asking some help. And they had a very good pretext. They went and they were, could you please help us? We all have to get together because Wolf Rovinsky is completely forgotten in Latvia. We have to celebrate him. And everybody got on it. Everybody was very, very happy to help this clown to commemorate this superhero. Of course, he didn't go in this costume in all of the places, kind of adapted. But actually, this was only the kind of pretext and a mask. What he did when he went into the hospital and when he did into the retirement house or when he did into the school, he worked on people's understanding of themselves. So his idea is that the Nurturn could become the superhero then we're everybody part of him, and we all can be superheroes. So during sessions, and I say sessions because we're really trying to avoid workshops, because we're not there to teach them something. The artists come there because he needs something from people in order to create his artwork, and the people who participate in his artwork take an experience. It has to be very horizontal collaboration, especially when we go into the hospitals or prisons. Those are the places that we have a very, very, very strict hierarchy. And one of the reasons why I think the Wellbeing Residency is such a great idea, it really helps to break this kind of hierarchy, because the artists can break the hierarchy, even if it's for this short moment, but to give the kind of freedom of the mind for the people. So he made people to work on the fact that they are all superheroes and find their superpowers. I don't want to get very emotional, but the moment when you see around 20 people from the psychoneurological clinic and the staff who at the beginning didn't want to participate, but it looked so fun that actually nurses came and sit together with them and were creating their masks and writing down their superpowers. And when they all have these masks and they're all talking about their superpowers, you don't know anybody anymore who is a nurse and who is the patient, but they're all part of it. And the fact that they did it together, and then he did it in different places. And then we had a cleaning Saturday in the festival area where everybody could come, and they kept costumes and clean in a superhero costume. So everybody was suddenly the superheroes for the place, and everybody suddenly mixed there. So it changes the approach, how you see the other person. And I think that is the most important that art can do, is you can change the perspective and have a completely different ways of seeing each other, and stop putting people in the kind of boxes of the client or the patient and the staff and the director. Here you have a little, there was a first draw of how they're going to work. Yeah, this is a little part of the work how they were working. And yeah, that was interesting, but if there's few lessons that we learned from this, is when you want to do this type of project, they were a clown company, but they had one videographer, one musician, one photographer. I'd say always take musician. It opens everybody's hearts. Whatever you want to do, but if someone plays a little bit of music at the beginning, then everybody becomes happy. But of course, it was very complicated, because their final work that they're going to use in their artistry is the video and the photography, but they're going to places where people are not able to give them permission to be photographed or filmed. So we could work with the schools. We had to think about a lot of ways. How do they document it? How do they use masks? And they use them. Then finally, for the photographies, often it's the staff of the hospital or the people who use masks, because most of the process they already use the masks. And as well, of course, they all speak English. So I'm here speaking, but actually the real person is our curator, who is with them 24 hours a day, translating and helping to communicate. And another thing that is very, very important is it's extremely overcharging. And somehow for the clown company, it was easier than the companies we have had before, but you always have to think about the support to the artist. Because when you come back from there, you can be perfect there, you come back from there, you get overwhelmed. You get very crazy stories from people who are at psychoneurological clinic. You can get extremely sad stories, and you can get very frightening stories. You know, people sometimes don't go to prison, they go to the hospital. So, and they're not trained to tell it. And when the artist comes home, he has to digest it all. And often it comes so to the curator, who cannot digest it all. So there is a very important question in these things, how to create a psychological support. How much do we have? 10 minutes. Perfect. But then I'm going to show you a little video of another project that we had this summer, which was very different. This was a a collaboration. This is a Lithuanian theater director called Agne Muralite, and she works with shadow theater. And she decided she wants to create a performance with psychoneurological clinic. And she said, I'm coming 1 month before the festival, so why wouldn't we show the performance in the festival? It sounded like a good idea, because we could merge people, but then it sounded very stressful. A festival is around 1,000 people coming to see, and it is as well a very high artistic level of the concept, but we decided to trust, because we said, if we have said ourselves that what we do is not art therapy, and it's not just workshops, but we want really high quality involving art, then we should trust the director that she's going to be able to do it. So she did work during 1 month. She went every day to the hospital. The first week is usually just about talking with the people, getting to know them, letting them play with different objects. And at the end, I'm going to show you just small parts of the final performance that was showed during the pre-week of the festival. So the festival is Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but around 550 volunteers and all the local people and the biggest fans of the festival come already the week before, because every night there's concerts. And so they had around 200 to 300 people watching their performance, and those are people who don't see them every day, even they live in the same village, because they just don't mix. And now they had the possibility not just to be kind of helpful or useful for society by cleaning something and helping to clean, but they actually had the possibility to be the ones on the stage. It's 20 minutes. I'm going to be like this rude person who lets you watch a little bit and then you're like, cluck, cluck, okay? see some of the image of the performance. What's really interesting is that the performance, they really created the content of the performance themselves, and we were thinking that the idea to use shadow theatre would be very, very good, because that would help them to be in a safe place about the audience. Actually, the opposite. At the beginning, they were very afraid of the shadows because they can become very big, and but they got used to the shadows, and finally they decided they actually want to come outside and they want to face the audience and they want to meet the audience, and it was a very magic moment, and it was very interesting as well for the artist to explore this kind of work. So yes, so that's all for me for today. There is some useful literature. If someone wants to get these links, I'd really, if you're interested in this type of work, these are 4 links that, for me, I think are very, very useful. Both the first one, Dimension Imagination, it's really kind of tool sets, but it is a research-based and it's with the visual arts. I know the collaborator, Kate Taylor, who has been working with it. She's a PhD in psychology, and she has been doing a lot of research on arts and psychology, and she has a very good insight. And then the second 2 things are just things that really help you to understand, but as well it really helps to lobby for the funding for these type of activities, because they're facts, and that's something that me, as I'm neither a researcher, at least not a factological, neither an artist in the medical sector, but it's from an organizational point of view, it's okay, here I actually have some data, and it's very useful to have some data because it's rare in the arts. And then the last one, Art Though Well, it's as well a publication by Kate Taylor, who traveled around Finland and the United States, and she actually researched the existing initiatives like this, and especially our Wellbeing Art Residencies. So you can have insight in there as well. And thank you very much for having me here. And if you have any questions, then here's our website. It's still being built step by step, but there's going to be more and more information. But feel free to email me or our network coordinator anytime. And I'm going to be here. There's coffee break, right? I'm going to be here for the coffee. So if you want to have a chat, then